5 signs you can't handle yourself. So I thought we'd do this again, dig down into it in a little bit more detail. First point, fear. Fear is your interpretation of your body's adrenaline response. It's as simple as that. You think you're scared, but actually what you're experiencing is natural changes in your body.
Dumping adrenaline to enable you to escape or defend yourself. And that adrenaline is essential.
I'm not saying that fear doesn't exist, but faced with a violent confrontation, first thing you're going to experience is adrenaline. Heart rate increase, quickening pulse, everything's going to change. And most people interpret that as fear. There's a mind-body link.
Your blood rushes from your brain down into your muscles so that you can move or attack or defend. So then people feel they're not thinking clearly.
Do you distinguish the difference between fear and adrenaline? Most people confuse the two. They are completely different. Both of them you will experience, but they're not the same. Second point, self-control. If you lack self-control, you really can't handle yourself.
We see nowadays people are suffering addiction to all manner of things. Technology, the food, so many things at our disposal now that are immediately available. That if you aren't able to control your impulses or your urges, desires, you're at the mercy of, your body just having these endless impulses that are insatiable. And that leads into the anger, the fear, the pride. And if you can't center yourself, how can you expect to handle yourself?
Impulses are dangerous because everybody has an impulse. Someone's standing in your face, they're getting angry, they're screaming and shouting, and then they trigger you to action. And then you have the impulse. Maybe you hit the guy, he pulls out a gun and shoots you. That impulse has led to you losing your life. So self-control in certain environments can actually be an advantage. It can make a difference. It can actually make the difference between life and death.
Self-control can be self-preservation. If you learn to control yourself, you can objectively analyze the situation and decide in a very critical moment, maintain a sense of control, walk away.
And that's a tough decision to make, but that's when it comes down to your ability to actually believe in yourself, rationalize the situation around you.
I think the ability as well comes into training fear, anger, pride, because those things don't serve you well in martial arts training. So you find a way to put them outside and leave them outside of the practice.
Third point, anger.
When we're angry, we're not in the driving seat anymore.
Well, you can't handle yourself if you're driven by anger. If you are easily angered, easily triggered, it doesn't mean you can't fight. It just means that you fight recklessly.
It can also mean that you use all your power very quickly in a short burst. You're unable to think objectively about the best and most efficient ways to de-escalate a threat. That anger ends up taking control of you rather than you taking control of anger.
The less triggers you have, the more effective you'll be in your self-defense. Fourth point, pride.
The ego, taking things personally, it's that element of me. And if you wrong me, I have to respond in order to right that wrong.
Yeah, you can't handle yourself if you're driven by pride. Your mind isn't in the right place. You're not solely able to fight. We're discussing, can you handle yourself? Because we want to know if we can deal with a violent confrontation that surprises us. If we're dominated by pride, that's going to weaken your ability to fight anyway.
Pride is not objective. Objectivity is looking at something strictly as it is and responding accordingly. That's very military, that's very trained.
So if you essentially are pride driven, then you will take things personally. When people say things to you, you're going to fly off the handle a lot easier because your pride's driving. Fifth point, ability. Some people can't handle themselves because they simply don't know how to fight.
Aside from all the emotions, have I got the skills?
And we're not talking about trained fighting, we're talking about the ability to be able to defend yourself. Because when you're suffering from an adrenaline response, when you're suffering from anger, you still have to fight.
And we see time and time again good comments about how when you are in a real dangerous situation, all that training goes out the window. If that happens even to a trained person, imagine if you're untrained.
So the takeaway, it's essentially the 7 deadly sins. So in any confrontation, you have to be able to handle yourself, both physically and psychologically. And these points are important because at the end of the day, if you lose your mind, you have no physical control. If someone's attacking you, you've got to deal with the fight physically and psychologically. So having a grip of your emotions and having some sort of handle on yourself is really important to your self-defense. Thanks for watching.